Hi, I'm Dr. Virginia LeBlanc, also known as Doc V, the Pivot Maestro. Welcome to the Define Your Path podcast for thought leaders, change agents, purpose entrepreneurs, and legacy builders. We are all about transforming perspectives as well as inspiring and motivating you to think without a box to define your path by exposing you to global thought leaders across industries on how they successfully define their path in life and business. Define Your Path is all about truth, transparency, and love. You will get nothing else from us to help you navigate the waters of your life and put you back in business. Today's spotlight is a very special guest, one of my joint venture partners, Miss Laura Lane. I am so happy to bring her to you today. Laura offers hope in a hopeless situation for caregivers that want to learn how to develop grace under pressure during the daily care of their pediatric oncology patients. During her webinars, workshops, and retreats, they learn how to better cope with the pressures and stress of being a caregiver while developing an increased self-care and compassion. Very important. Laura provides a safe, steady, and grounded place for parents, caregivers, and healthcare providers to let down their guard and feel a sense of belonging and connection. Her programs are created to support participants in the search for feelings of peace, greater perspective, and in fostering a stronger relationship with the divine. For cancer moms who need to feel understood and supported and realize that they can't do this journey on their own, Laura is a professionally trained transformational workshop leader there to support you along the way. Unlike other secular organizations, Laura is not afraid to have the deep spiritual conversations that bring more joy and gratitude and a closeness to God during the dark nights of the soul. Laura Lane is co-author of 2 Mothers, One Prayer, Facing Your Child's Cancer with Hope, Strength, and Courage. Be sure to check that out. Find that on Amazon. And she's also the host of the weekly podcast for cancer moms, Hope, Strength, Courage. So be sure to check her out. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doc V. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Well, I am grateful to have you here, and I just want to jump in. I want people to get to know you, to understand you, to know why they should reach out to you to help them define their paths and what they're going through. So we look forward to hearing your story and how you face your fears to love the skin you're in and pivot into pursuing your passion and soul purpose. In our podcast, we love to keep it simple. So here are 2 questions for you. How have you defined your path? And how do you want to help others define theirs? So, Laura, the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you. So I think I will jump into February 24th, 2011. That was the day my daughter Celeste was diagnosed with a rare brain tumor called pineoblastoma. We went from her having headaches and going to the doctors to being rushed off to emergency, having a CAT scan by 2 in the afternoon, an MRI by dinner time, and she was in emergency neurosurgery by 9:30 at night.
Goodness.
We were launched into the world of pediatric oncology, childhood cancer. And if there's ever a time to be afraid, that was it. When I got that phone call that we needed to race to the hospital, I had to pull up every bit of strength that I had to stay focused and realize the most important thing in that particular moment was my little girl. And over the coming days and weeks, that continued to be my focus. What did I need to do to be the best mom I could be for my little girl? To have all the strength that I needed for my little girl for everything that she was about to go through. And I discovered in that moment that I was willing to do for my little girl all kinds of things that I had never been willing to do for myself.
Wow.
That I was willing to ask for help in ways that I had never asked for help. And I also realized that everything in my life had prepared me for this moment. I don't think it was a coincidence that a year earlier, I had started to study with Bob Proctor, personal growth and development expert. And he had been teaching me for a year all about fear. He told me that fear is an absence of knowledge. So every time those emotions of fear would come up and start to drown me, I go, wait a second, what is it that I don't know?
That's so
and
good.
So I'm like, okay, this is what I don't know, so that I need to go find answers. And if I don't know where the answers are, I will ask somebody else.
And
that became sort of a huge pivot to be able to recognize that, okay, every time I was in fear, it meant I didn't know something. But there was somebody out there who did. And sometimes that somebody was my Heavenly Father. He knew the big picture.
Yes.
And I could go to him for peace. I could go to the doctors and nurses. I could go to the internet. I could go to friends and family for little bits and pieces. But the divine had all the answers. And one of the quests that I went on was I decided we needed a miracle. And so then I started to go, well, how do you actually get a miracle? How does that really work? Everything that I had read up until that point, and I had studied the scriptures, and I had taught Sunday school for over a decade. I'd been a missionary. So I'd done a fair bit of reading of the scriptures over the years. And everything I read said miracles come from faith. I'm like, but actually, how does that work? So then I'm like, obviously, I don't understand it well enough. And I need to learn some more. And so that became a big focus for me to understand, what does faith really, really mean? And how do I have that in my life? How do I bring that faith and turn that into miracles for my little girl? And that was an incredible journey.
I bet.
And it then helped me to see how I could be helping other people, that I'm like, there's so many people who don't know this. And that helped to define my path, to realize that this blessing that I had been given, this other little miracle in amongst all the other miracles, is God was showing me what I needed to be doing. And I had been asking for a while.
Wow. So you found your sole purpose in that tragedy.
Yeah.
Or in that trauma, rather, that you were going through, and tragedy.
Yeah.
Wow. So you alluded to already. So to my second question, how do you want to help others define their path? So you're already doing it. So can you just elaborate? I know you're in the transformational leadership industry, and I personally know your mission. But can you speak to us about that?
So one of the things, as we were going through all of this, I had an important question that got asked of me. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brendan Burchard, and he was talking about, well, if you'd like an opportunity to come to our events, then you need to do a video and tell us, what are you an expert on? And it made me really think, okay, well, what is it that I know? So that I was able to break it down to, what did we learn in these 2 years with my daughter? What had the universe perfectly prepared me to do? And I realized it came down to sharing inspired wisdom, sharing people that I had been given a gift, the perspective and the peace that I had because of everything in my life literally had prepared me for that. Not just Bob Proctor, but in losing my mother and my sister in a car accident when I was a little girl. Those things taught me about death. It taught me about life and purpose in life, and gave me a perspective that it was far easier for me to go through this process with my daughter because I saw a bigger perspective. And it enabled me to do it with a grace and an ease that I saw that there were many others that were struggling, really struggling with. And so that is now what I share is how do you cope? How do you get through the difficult times? Do it with your head above water. Do it with that grace and ease. I came to love the symbol of the swan, how she just that she just so calmly goes across the surface of the water. Now she's paddling like crazy underneath, but she's got her head held high, and she is just this symbol of grace. And we have that ability to do that. And that's what I love to share, are the things that I have learned on how to do that.
Wow.
And that,
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. So speak to the audience about how you go about doing that, because I absolutely loved it. You know, when I was I was in a very hostile work environment, and you know, dealing with discriminatory practices and you name it, our paths crossed, and you were such a blessing for me. And you know, just just your calm demeanor, your peaceful demeanor, was just such, you know, an example. And the way you found it was through Qigong, right? I finally know how to pronounce that. And I love how you attach the spiritual affirmation. So I'm kind of leading into your talk, so go for it.
sure, oh, yes, of course. So one of the things that I found for me in order to just keep my head above water was, and maybe I'll back up a little bit. I knew the importance of prayer and I knew the importance of meditating, but I struggled to make it a constant practice in my life, a daily practice in my life.
Me too.
I found it difficult. So I get it. I go through spurts and I do it, and then I wouldn't, and then it'd be hard to get going again. And trying to quiet the mind, sitting there and trying to quiet the mind with meditation can be a struggle. There's so many things going on in life, and especially when life's stressful, we're worrying about so much, and it's so easy to get caught up in that monkey mind that just go, right? Mm-hmm. And I was introduced to a martial art practice called Qigong. It's where Tai Chi comes from. You might want to kind of sort of it between Tai Chi and Kung Fu. And it is what I discovered is those postures, that movement is actually a moving meditation. And when I was practicing with my instructor, he shared with me an affirmation that's to go with one of the postures. And then it made it really easy to do that posture. I memorized it so much better. I got so much more focused when I was doing the affirmation with that posture. It was amazing. And so then I thought, you know what? What if I take, because there are 24 postures in the Qigong that I do. And it's called the 24 posture therapeutic Qigong. And so then I began to associate an affirmation with each one. And these are positive spiritual affirmations that brought me back to who I am and my relationship with my Heavenly Father and the love that I want in my life and the strength that I have. And by doing those on a daily basis, brought a peace and a calmness. And I now discovered I could do it every day. That practice that I was missing, that I wanted, now it became easy. And I'm going at, I think it's 520 days in a row now without missing a single day.
Oh my goodness. Are you serious?
Yeah.
520 days. I am so envious. Audience, are you envious? Because I'm envious. Oh my goodness. That's just amazing, Laura. And it's tremendous. And, you know, just in the little bit of consistency I've been able to find with, you know, just kind of through the Grace Under Pressure. So I do want you to talk about Grace Under Pressure, your program, but also, so you're aware, Laura was, just who she is in her heart. We partnered and we do a Grace Under Pressure program for women. So that aside, when I started to really process the affirmations, these 24 affirmations, and I went through postures with you, I have never told you this, but meeting you was pivotal. And it was the turning point in one, remembering who and whose I was, and recovering, and starting to recover from the trauma that I was enduring, and ultimately leading to my recognition of my sole purpose and making the decision to leave the workplace and choose me and choose the others who I was to serve through that sole purpose. So I want to thank you on the air publicly for that. And can you share a little bit more about Grace Under Pressure?
Okay. So I put together the 24 postures, combined them with 24 affirmations, and I thought, I would love to be able to teach this. And then, well, what's the best way to do that? We could do that over 24 weeks, get together. Each week, focus on one more of the affirmations, teaching the 24 posture Qigong, and each week introducing one more affirmation. And I'm just going to give you a teaser for the audience. So the first affirmation that I was taught, and the affirmation itself is peace, love, gratitude, and joy. I forgive, I forget, I let go. Now imagine doing that with movements that help you to remember all of that. And then being able to spend an hour after doing the Qigong and discussing that affirmation and how we incorporate it into our lives. And so then, of course, this is where Doc V and I had a chat a year ago, and I told her about this program, and my goal was to share that program with cancer families, caregivers, healthcare providers. And she immediately said, oh, that would be amazing for my audience. And I said, well, let's do that. And combining it with her brilliance. And it's just perfect. And I'm so grateful that we get to do this together.
Yes.
Being able to combine the two together and share that with women all over the world and bring peace and perspective, rebirth, renaissance.
Our reconciliation.
Yeah. So
yeah, Laura, I tell you, my heart is so full because I know the transformation that's happening for others and the work you're already doing, and what's coming forth, and the Grace Under Pressure for women, because I personally witnessed it, I personally experienced it, and I'm so glad you used that particular affirmation, because it was the let go that helped me, let go and forgive. Forgiveness is a hard thing, and you can get to that place, but you have to accept and realize and recognize the trauma, the pain, and so you can let it go. So, a lot of people don't realize that we're all walking around here with some sort of trauma. If we've lived life any amount of time, most of us are walking around here with PTSD, right? and don't realize it. But just even the naming of Grace Under Pressure, tell us where you got that from. I know, but
yeah. So I discovered that Ernest Hemingway has a quote that says, "Courage is grace under pressure." Like, that just sums it up completely. And each of us need courage to get through every day. Some days are easier than others. Some days are much harder than others. And those days when you just feel like, I can't do it, when you need all the courage you have, courage is doing it gracefully under the pressure. And we want you to know we've got your back.
Yes, absolutely. And also a huge part of this is the looking inward, the inside out philosophy, that a lot of us, this new movement of inspired living and transformation and all of that speak about and teach about, self-love. Can you speak a little bit about just that as it's tied to the postures, the movements, and all of that, and the affirmations?
Yeah, so each one of the affirmation and postures. So just so that you understand, I'm just going to back up here. That one posture that I mentioned is peace, love, gratitude, and joy. And I apologize. I'm combining another one. It's
They're all
actually coming
good.
up
They're
the
all good.
front. Peace, love, gratitude, and joy. And then I forgive. So it's a gift. I forget and I let go.
Wow.
And so if you can imagine, as you're doing the various types, the various standing while we're doing it, that it allows us to take the time
Yes.
to really internalize. You can be closing your eyes when you do your postures, and you want to be getting to the center of you, grounding yourself, connecting yourself to the earth, letting go of everything else and go, what matters right now? Focusing on those positive emotions, focusing on that love and peace and gratitude. That there are postures and affirmations that are focusing on our connection to our Heavenly Father, to the divine. We have postures that are focusing on how we move through the day and our movement, that seeking balance and finding that balance. And so each one of them can be like just a sacred moment to bring us back to what's most important in our lives.
Yes. It's so good, so good. And for those of you listening on the podcast, you can go to the video podcast on YouTube and see the motion, the movement.
Yeah, each one of the postures.
Yes, each one of the postures. Yes, thank you so much, Laura, for just helping us to see that we can be grace under pressure. You know, that we can find a way, that there is a better or more better way, that I like to say, than just the reality that we're living in, our present circumstance. You know, which, I mean, what you went through is as traumatic as it gets, right? But you found a way by tapping into that source, your source being God, to help redirect your path, you know, to pivot out of, you know, from going down that path that could have been negative, or you know, that fleeing posture. And you decided to live, you know, and to fight for, you know, and do so in the name of your daughter, and live a more inspired life. So I just applaud you. I just love you to death, you know that. And I'm so happy the audience has gotten to hear from you, and just see who you are, what you're all about, and how you're showing up in the world and helping others define their path. Now, you also work with not only moms, right, with caregivers of any sort, whether physicians. So could you speak a little bit to that as we start to wrap?
Yeah, so the things that I've learned don't just support cancer moms, but if you are a caregiver, you could be looking after a child, you could be looking after a parent, looking after a spouse, a loved one, anyone with a life-threatening illness. And you're in that daily stress, that daily worry. Could be a caregiver in the hospital. You could be a support staff, a nurse, a doctor, any of those roles, and experiencing burnout, exhaustion, worry, feeling a hopelessness, doing this day in and day out. Will it ever end? Struggling with the loss. Then this is where my gift to you, to share with you that you can do this. We've got your back. And There are some resources out there that will help you. We don't want you to be alone. We want you to know that you are loved and supported, and we recognize how amazing you are in everything that you are doing. And there are so many circumstances in life where people are struggling right now. They just feel overwhelmed and I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to know, I want you to know that you're not alone. We understand how hard life can be, that it can be crippling and it brings you to your knees. But the one message there is that you're not alone, that we're here, we understand, and we want to love and support you.
So good. So good, Laura. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here and for always showing up in the way you do with truth, transparency, and love. That's what the show is about. And you are an exemplary guest to spotlight today. So I would like to thank you for being on our show. And please tell our audience what's the best way they can get in contact with you, or how can they follow you on social media?
So if you join me on my website, which is lauralane.ca, because I live in Canada. And when you come to my website, you can click on all the links for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, because I enjoy that too.
I haven't gotten into that yet.
Oh, it's my little place that I like to have some fun. So, and yeah, so join me there. LinkedIn as well, Twitter. You can find me on all of those places. And I also have a podcast. That's the Hope, Strength, Courage podcast. So wherever you listen to your podcast, I hope you will find and join us for that. Share with other families that might be going through the same thing. We're there for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura. And audience, you can also reread Laura's bio at the Define Your Path podcast page and connect with her social media links from there as well. And until then, be sure to visit our virtual home for Defining Paths to see what we're up to. And you can find us at definingpaths.online. And until then, I want you guys to love the skin you're in and define your path. I'm Doc V, the Pivot Maestro and your corner woman. See ya.